Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. With us today, happy to have him back, because guys, if you love the world of artificial intelligence and you believe in what artificial intelligence is going to do to our economies and our lives going forward, then you're going to love this interview with Datametrex AI, trades in Canada, DM, in the US under DTMXF. Marshall Gunter's the CEO, is with us today. For those new to the story, because you keep seeing these great headlines out of Silicon Valley and South Korea actually putting in P.Os of the company, what you need to know is Datametrex AI, as you can imagine from the name, is a technology-focused company using artificial intelligence to create solutions across multiple verticals, including cybersecurity, telehealth, even electric vehicle charging. So all that gives them the rare benefit that most small cap companies only dream of, that is multiple successful independent divisions that are each capable of being a company maker. And that's why CIOReview called them the most promising Canadian tech company for 2022. More than just lip service, financial highlights. Last full year ended 2021, record revenue, $49 million, up about 300%. Record net earnings, $9 million, up 280%. I just can't say enough. Even Q2 revenue came in at $18.5 million, give or take. And now they put up number of headlines, 2 P.Os from Lotte in South Korea, 3 from a Silicon Valley company that we're going to talk about, and 1 P.O. from the insurance industry. And that's just since our last interview, not for the year, just from our last interview. Marshall, welcome back, my friend.
Thanks, George. I'm always glad to be here.
Hey, this is only some of our news, like I said, since you and I last spoke at the end of the summer. Fair to say that business is going great?
Well, right now, we're really proud of what our AI is doing. So this is just another example of us, providing our services, and our services branching out into a few new areas that we have not, seen before. For instance, like you mentioned, the insurance industry. This is a great application for us. And again, we're super proud to have these clients working with us inside the United States. We've been working on getting into that market for a while now, and now we're in.
So we're already dominant in so many parts of the world, especially South Korea. Now Silicon Valley steps in. Who is Bit9, and why 3 separate purchase orders from them totaling over $2.4 million?
So Bit9 is a company out of Santa Clara, California. You can go to their website and check them out. It's at bit9.net. That's BITNINE.net. So Bit9 specializes in what's called graph databases. Okay. Now
let's explain what that is to everybody in layman's term, because they should know, and it's mind blowing, but they need a layman's explanation.
Yeah, because this one's a bit technical. Okay, so we're not talking about just consumer uses. This is more B2B stuff. But a graph database is something that's been emerging over the past couple decades to help companies work with problems that we haven't seen before. With the advent of the internet and stuff, that traditional databases just aren't any good at. Okay, so let me lay that out just quickly. Like a traditional databases, they've been around since, the 70s. They're all based on relationships and, relational mathematics. Now, this is great if you're running, say, a warehouse. I've got 15, widgets and 52 other, double-sized widgets. And I'm trying to track, my inventory coming in and out, and things like that. So that's great. Perfect. And it's also good, for databases that are local and just doing, how we consider traditional commerce. Now, when it comes into graphs, we have a problem that traditional databases were very bad at solving. So the biggest graph that everybody's familiar with is the social graph. So, for instance, I'm Marshall. On my social media accounts, I'm connected to, let's just say for argument's sake, 500 other people. Okay, so let's take LinkedIn's model. These are my 500 connections. Those people have 500 connections themselves. And then those people have 500 more connections each. Now, this is an exponential explosion in the amount of data that's in those databases. A, and the amount of connections between the different people and the different nodes. Okay, so this type of multiple connections between nodes, multiple overlapping interest among, in this case, billions and billions of people.
Right. So it's not
These
just
are the
like George knows 500 people, know 500 people. It's also George's a hockey fan, and a couple of those people are Toronto Maple Leaf fans. A couple of
That's
it's
right.
finding all those intricacies within the massive exploding database. And George likes Greek food, and the 6 other people in his third layer like Greek food. That's the difficulty for traditional databases, right?
That's absolutely the difficulty, because what happens is, you have to start computing across all those 500 times 500 times 500 times 500. And this
Right.
just goes on and on and on. And if you were to try to model for, do predictions inside that type of environment with a traditional database,
No
and it's
chance.
examining all those nodes, this is take millennia. Even given our computing power today, it just takes forever. So graph databases were developed for this specific type of problem. And this particular type of problem, like I said, has been emerging over the past few decades, especially, with the advent of the internet and all the connections we have everywhere. Shopping, like we mentioned Amazon, a warehouse earlier. Shopping's not a traditional model anymore. The warehouse itself is, but how you buy things is now a graph problem. You're connected to everybody else that bought the same product online in every store worldwide. You're not just George who went down to the local hardware store and
Right.
buys everything. He buys a hammer from this hardware store. He buys nails from this hardware store. Now he buys, bolts from that. You're all in the same hardware store. I got no problems tracking you. But if you buy your hammer here and you buy your nails in Mexico, and now you buy your
Bolts.
widgets in China, and all the connections in between these are graph problems now. So I hope that gives you a good overview of how, what the type of problems graph databases are designed to address. And
I think you explained that perfectly, because that gives us exactly the exponential and connection impossibility for traditional database to solve. So why did Bit9, which is great, come calling on Datametrex? Clearly it's because of your AI capabilities, but why your AI capabilities versus GeorgeCom AI capabilities?
Hi. So we have been, in touch with Bit9 over the years for a long time. And I think that the neatest thing about this is we've been working internally with, graph style databases at Nexology for many, many years now. Okay.
Wow.
So as you know, at Nexology, part of the tech that we have does track the social graph, right? And we track it, we can dice that social graph, around different things. But for instance, one concrete example is our narrative tracking technology that we use online, right? So you've seen this in the past and on the website that we can track narratives online. We've used it in elections, in Canada, the US, use it with different governments, et cetera. So we can track how fake news spreads, et cetera. That is a graph problem. The spreading of news is a graph problem. For instance, one person will put the news out into the ecosystem, and then, people are going to share that, okay, across Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, et cetera. And then those people share it. So now you have that expanding graph. We have been using that internally for a very, very long time. In fact, there are certain patents we have around particular aspects of graphing relationships inside, a graph database model. Now, we are not a graph database company, okay? They are. So what they're betting on, and what we think after, the pilots and everything are done, is we can take a lot of the tech that we've developed internally to conquer some of the problems that we've had, for instance, with the predictive analytics inside graphs, with isolating different sections of graphs for query, et cetera. They can take that, mold it, and combine it with their technology, and now you get a 2 + 2 = 5. So, between our predictive analytics and their expansion of a graph, they can take what we can do in, let's say a graph that's this big, and expand it out to something that's this big and make it even faster.
So if everything goes well, Marshall, it doesn't mean perfect, but it's going to take probably a couple of quarters. I would imagine something like this would probably take 3-6 months, maybe even a little more, for them to, put in, take Datametrex technology, put it into their solution, and see if they can achieve the goal they're looking to achieve. But if that goes well, what kind of doors does that open up? Because if I gather from what you're saying, the traditional database market is always going to be, George's inventory. I got a traditional database that's never going away. But this sounds like graph database solutions are going to be necessary for this world that we know is all about compounding relationships, consumerism, TikTok, all of it. What kind of doors does it open up into how big of an industry, over the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years? Because I think that's where the growth is going to come from.
Well, if this works, and okay, let's do this one by one. You asked how long it's going to take, so let's start there, and then we'll talk about doors that open. So, the initial foray is done. So, prototyping, that type of stuff, that all works. People do that before they commit dollars to this. So, not speaking for Bit9, just personally, but I'd imagine this is going to take 6-9 months, something of that nature, maybe a little bit longer, because the steps to this are as follows. The prototyping's done. Then they're going to start looking, how do we solidify that prototype and productize it? Okay. And that, that's a lot more work. So if the prototyping is 10-15%, now you got the other 85% to go. That's going to take a couple quarters to get it in, get it tested, etc. The last stage of all that would be put it into an actual real world use case. And then those types of tests, data aggregation, scientific analysis, et cetera, that's at least a quarter, because you're going to have to let it run in the wild. I would guess probably 2 months, maybe 3 months, then do your analysis, maybe a little longer than a quarter, and then produce your results in your paper. So that's probably the timeline you're looking at here, something of that nature. That being said, what does this open up if it works? Graph databases are everywhere. You just don't see them anymore. Okay. Not that you saw traditional databases either, but everybody has
but almost all of us ran into a traditional database, even if it was keeping track of our child's little league softball team, right?
That's right.
We all have it, but graph databases, very few of us ever run into.
That's right. That's because the size of the problems that the graph databases are designed to solve are so much bigger than your everyday problems, and this is why they're necessary. Like you could probably hook a graph database into the back of, say, Excel, like you do with Microsoft's traditional little small databases. They hook into the back of Excel for any accounting firm, but it doesn't make any sense, right? So because these problems they're designed to solve are gigantic. Okay, so like
I would imagine Facebook has their own internal graph database, right?
Guaranteed.
They all right. So, but they're not sharing that with the world.
No.
They want it. So that's why the world comes calling on the likes of Datametrex, because you're willing to be able to share your technology to help them develop the ultimate graph database solution.
That's right. And this type of problem has its roots going way back. So graph style solutions have, gone back in the scientific community for many, many, many decades. For instance, at say CERN over there, they're using graph databases to model, galaxies, planets, these type of things. Well, these are big, 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 big problems, right?
Celestial.
You're talking data, like crazy amounts of data. But again, you see this everywhere. We already talked about shopping, graph databases all over the map there. You're talking about even in the crypto fields, all right? You've seen a lot about blockchain and graph lining up together because they do, so they can be deployed as complementary technologies. I already mentioned in the scientific space, CERN was using this type of technology to predict, say, the movement of planets, black holes, all kinds of stuff. And, the one that everybody's familiar with, your social graph. So, Facebook's got one, vContact's got one, Twitter's got one, Reddit's got one. They've all got one. This stuff is everywhere. And this is the other thing. The more data we produce and the more that this goes, the need for these things just increases.
Well, that's why I'm saying it's going to grow for the next 10, 20 years, because all we're doing now is we're creating data right now. Right? Mm-hmm. We're creating data this second, and everyone consuming it is creating data because they're consuming it. So this, graph database solutions, I think, are going to be a monster, unless I'm wrong, are going to be a monster growing space for the next 20 years.
I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to be a huge growing space over the next few decades. And in fact, right now they're very much, limited to, for the most part, limited to large corporations, larger problem sets, things that we've discussed right here. But just like, traditional data modeling and everything else, this will come down and these things will become more accessible over time, which only widens the market.
So let me ask you a question. Why the 3 P.Os? Why not just one big one? Or is this another example of your really great and proven land and expand strategy, which you first kind of showed with South Korea, where you got one contract, then you got another, and then, they loved your technology so much, they just kept on applying it to different parts of their businesses and their conglomerate, Latte. Is that what happened with Bit9?
It absolutely is. It just happened really quickly. So we've been in these, like I said, in these negotiations for a bit. But as we signed a few things, then they came back and they said, "Oh, hey, we were interested in this piece also." So Nexus Smart, for instance, and so what do we do about that? So okay, well, let's run in another contract, and we can have a pilot of that also. So this one just happened to happen very, very quickly. And it's because of the relationships we've been building with these guys for quite some time. The other thing about the multiple contracts is that they do cover slightly different pieces, so we're talking different, internal AI tech and then applications of, say, Nexus Smart, which is a full-blown like solution in and of itself that it's turnkey. So there's a few other things to cover with that, support, things of this nature, updates, etc. But this is definitely an example of our land and expand working very fast.
I know you can't say anything, but these 3 P.Os have come out over the last 2 weeks. So I have to wonder, and I'm sure the investors are wondering as they're watching this, does that mean there's going to be more coming, or if they stop for now? And if they did, that's great. You're talking about $2.5 million in a couple of weeks, but we're all kind of wondering, will more come from this? I know I can't ask you because you can't tell, but we are looking. We are using artificial intelligence to scan your face for clues.
That's fine. So
and expand started with Latte. Started with Latte. So you also announced a $500,000 P.O. from Latte Card, and then an additional $500,000 P.O. from Latte Home Shopping. So your relationship there only continues to grow, which is great. I'm sure all shareholders are very appreciative of Latte showing this kind of this kind of loyalty to Datametrex. But again, it just goes to prove how great the technology is, right? Because each division keeps coming back for more and more from you, correct?
Absolutely. So, with these 2 new contracts, we're now in 2 new divisions of Latte, and we're super proud to be inside Latte Card, because Latte Card is a very big deal. That puts us dead in the middle of a credit card industry, which is an industry that we haven't been in before. And it's also an industry that opened up to us through this land and expand strategy, and by us showing that our tech works. So we went inside Latte a couple of years ago. We've been methodically moving to different divisions, and now we're inside one of the credit card divisions. And we're super excited about that. And going back to that, the uses of credit cards and shopping, again, is now in today's modern world a graph problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Because George bought some hammers in Toronto, and Marshall bought some hammers in Montreal, and Graph kind of finds out what else we have in common together, even though we're in different cities. So
yeah, absolutely.
But again, proof positive, Marshall, that the technology obviously is working really well, because a major multi-billion-dollar conglomerate like Latte keeps coming back and issuing P.Os for different divisions within the company. That's got to give you and all shareholders an incredible amount of confidence in the true ability, your core abilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're, like I said, our land and expand strategy has been working over the last couple of years, and we continue to see success with it. And we're going to keep building on these successes and keep building out more and more contracts like this.
Let's talk about the insurance industry. $100,000 P.O. from the insurance industry. You said at the outset that was new. What's going on there?
Well, this is a little bit more of the same. So this is a pilot project that we're going to be working on. So, it's a very small contract, but again, it's part of our overall strategy, and it's how we have been approaching various companies in the past.
Right.
A lot of people don't want to commit, rightfully so, to multi-million dollars right off the get-go. What they want to do is they want to see if it works. This is the exact same thing that we deployed in Korea in our land and expand. It's what we're deploying now in the United States with our land and expand. And it's also something we've seen inside, say, the government. We'll go in for a few $100,000, $100,000 in this case, set up a pilot project. We'll go through it, see if it works, look at the results, et cetera. And if those results are promising, et cetera, then we ramp it up, we expand, and we kick going.
Are you able to discuss the application for the insurance industry? Or is that kind of low key for now?
Low key for now. But if this stuff does work out and it comes to fruition, we'll be discussing it a lot more.
All right. Well, hey, good luck with that. I think I speak on behalf of all shareholders, and given your success rate to date, fingers crossed that this one's going to go just as well. So fair to say, Marshall, because I've asked you this before, but from Silicon Valley, South Korea, the insurance industry, and all this thing going on, is it fair to say that Datametrex is now becoming globally renowned for its artificial intelligence capabilities? It just seems like, you've got the attention of people from around the world. It's not like you're getting it all from Montreal and Toronto to say your good local story.
No.
The world pretty much know who we are now. And I know it can always be more, but are you past that point?
I think we are approaching that point. How about that? So yeah, we are definitely seeing some recognition, and this is showing in a lot of the inbounds we're receiving and a lot of the sales calls we're receiving. And in fact, it's showing in the industries that are calling us. So you mentioned insurance, you mentioned credit cards, et cetera. And now we're talking about, graph databases. Okay. And all of this is on the back of tech that, we're not building specifically for those industries. They're taking existing tech that we have, that we've proved it works, and we're applying it to those existing models. That's it. So the overhead on, say, Nexology is next to nothing in a lot of cases, and very small in others. Now, what's really helping there is, our ability and our track record with this land and expand strategy. So they're seeing companies continue to deploy things, that gets the word out, right? So when you see Latte continue to deploy and Samsung deploy, and then you pick up a contract in Silicon Valley and we deploy that, and other people buy in, that leads other people to understand that this really works. So, like I said, it's working and it's getting our name out there, and we're starting to see a lot, the fruit of our efforts is coming to bear. So, while I won't say we're a household name, we're definitely not. I don't have Datametrex on my smart TV yet, but we are definitely making inroads, and we're definitely making a lot of progress. And I think that those contracts and numbers show it.
I was also wondering something else, because I've been, I love to watch CNBC while I'm working, to hear what some of the experts have to say. And the one thing they're talking about is tech valuations getting crunched. We see Facebook, Amazon, Google, they're all getting kind of crunched now. And the one underlying theme in all of that is these companies have to get leaner, meaner, and squeeze more revenue. It was a year or two ago when valuations were frothy, they could be a little more loose, but now they've got to really get tighter. So is it fair to say also that, companies are going to need Datametrex even more? Tech companies are going to need Datametrex even more now to help them really get out as much value as they can from their databases and their graphs and their operations than ever before.
Well, we can definitely contribute to that. That's one of the primary drivers, when we see new industries, is the ability to cut costs inside what we call, a predictive analytics channel. Okay. So what does that mean? It means if you can predict what's going to come next, you can prepare for it and you can adequately service it. Okay. And you can do that efficiently. All right. So we use this type of technology all over the place. It's even used inside a computer. Your computer at the computer processing unit actually does predictions and what's called caching to figure out what it's going to do next. If it misses and says, oh, what I'm going to do next is wrong, that step costs like 10 times more than it should have cost. But if they hit, it costs like 10%. All right. That's what we're providing with a lot of this is we provide those hits. Where do you go next? What discovery do you need to be looking into? And if we're able to continue to apply that into areas and different verticals and different areas of, just of life in general, we make things faster, cheaper, more accessible. And we're going to see, companies love that.
Is a confidence. I mean, look, the confidence you're exuding, the smile, you don't need, I was joking earlier about we got an AI machine reading your facial expressions. You don't need an AI machine to read your facial expressions. You're happy, you're confident. Is that the reason why you guys also announced that you're increasing your normal course issuer bid, AKA stock buyback, because you guys are just that confident in how the company's going?
Yes, George, it is. So with our NCIB, which we've been continuing to do over the past couple months, we've bought back quite a few shares, and we really believe that this is going to bring value both to our investors and to Datametrex itself, because management and the board and everybody involved here really believes in what we're doing. And we're pretty happy with our track record over the last couple of years, and we're proud owners of our own stock.
And finally, really quickly, because I know we can't get a long conversation because it was awesome what we did here. Medi-Cal and the EV charging side, how is that going?
Well, both of those are rolling out very well right now. So overall, like the electric vehicles are a little bit ahead of the game. We're in the middle of getting stuff imported from Korea and converted. We're talking about voltages, apps, language, things like that. And overall, we're ahead of the game. So the batteries are coming over, chargers are over, trucks, etc. And EVs rolling out all in the Vancouver area. Medi-Cal, same thing. We've recently started talking, about servicing students that come in, to the country. That's going to be a big push for us. And things are lining up across all three of these verticals, to be a really good Q1, really good Q2. Let's get through the end of the year, good setup, hit the ground running. And the AI division is going, that like gangbusters right now. So everything's lining up so we can run out the end of the year very effectively and then hit the ground running in January next year and not look back.
Marshall, that sounds exciting. I mean, like you said, the AI side is going like gangbusters. If that's all there was, we'd all be ecstatic. But now we got Medi-Cal, EV charging coming on. It looks like in Q1 to look forward to on top of the AI. So well done to you and the team, my friend. Thanks for being here as always.
Thanks, George. Glad to be here as usual.
To everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening to my podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform. To Marshall Gunter, is the CEO at Datametrex AI, trades in Canada under DM for friends in the US, DTMXF. For those new to the story, but you've seen all these headlines from South Korea to Silicon Valley, you want to wonder, who are these guys? Get the company profile page on Agoracom. We've got the whole story neatly laid out for you to understand both the business and the technology side in a way that's easily understandable. And once you've got that under your belt, head right over to the Datametrex website and do your deep dive due diligence. Thanks for joining us. Have an amazing day. See you next time. Hey guys, the video's over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our YouTube channel so you never miss another great Agoracom small cap video.